Hey, what's up guys? It is I, Mark Yoon, and today I'm bringing another hopefully exciting video. So what I want to talk to you today is it's about time to start talking about expectations. Now, I know this is the one conversation that most everyone does not want to have when it comes to Soulcalibur 7 or any game that's anticipated coming out, but we have to kind of talk about it. So, in the lead up to Soulcalibur 7, I've been making a ton of content, a ton of videos talking about different things we'll see, you know, all kinds of stuff. And what I keep getting in the comments, and this is to no fault of your own, because I'm this way too, is this unbridled passion for this being the best Soulcalibur game that's ever going to be. And while my passion lies with your opinions, and I want it to be, and I so desperately need it to be, the fact of the matter is that no matter how well Soulcalibur sold last time, which is pretty average compared to Soulcalibur if you don't count digital stuff, and even though the project is renewed, we don't know how much budget that they're going to give the game. And you know, budget is like the biggest concern when it comes to these games. So there's a couple different reasons why I want us to temper our expectations and why I want us to just try to be a little bit withholding when it comes to us wanting certain things from this game, because I've talked about a lot of this before, and I just want to reiterate this just for everybody who is new on the channel, and for those of you who are wanting this to be like the best Soulcalibur game of all time. First thing we need to remember is that Project Soul has changed directors and changed teams with almost every iteration of the games. So all of those old files that are stored on those old computers or maybe lost to time that are in different engines that would have to be ported over, all of that stuff would probably have to be recreated. I don't know if they could even use the same polygonal frames because they use different formats for the different kinds of coding engines. It's different for C++ and different for the newer ones that they're using today. Not even porting that stuff into Unreal Engine 5 and trying to get all that stuff running on the new engine. This is just a lot of little tiny things. So with the amount of time that they have for development, let's be generous and say that they started development as soon as Huang was released, because that means they'd have been done Huang Sung-Young for quite some time for him to release at that time period, at least a few months. Let's say the team started focusing their efforts on porting over at least the current 6 stuff into Unreal Engine 5 so we can get Soulcalibur 7 up and running off the ground. I'm not saying there's going to be no additional content, because I know there's going to be at least a couple new characters, some returning characters such as Viola and SCVI, stuff like that. But what people don't understand about engines and about coding is that you start with a basic 3D map or a polygonal frame, and it depends on how many polygons are actually in that frame in order for movements and stuff like that. So you can't even take a base frame to port over and then up-res it. That's something that upscalers do, or something you would see whenever somebody makes a port of an old game or does a remaster of it or something like that. They use the old technology with the new technology. A perfect example is Crisis Core, using the Final Fantasy VII Remakes engine to actually remake Crisis Core in its entirety. That's something that you would expect to see, but doing something like that with that is also, we don't understand the new technology they were using at the time, especially for Soulcalibur 3, because when Soulcalibur 3 came out, the engine was totally different, the engine totally changed. Sony had paid for the game, that's why it was exclusive to PlayStation 2. There's a lot of reasons and licensing agreements and things that we don't know about the behind the scenes of that game as to why it's never been reported, because we've seen Soulcalibur 2 report, and Soulcalibur 3 sold not as much as 2, but almost as much as 2. And that was sticking to one console, not just 3 different versions, because a lot of people, like myself included, bought all 3 different versions of the games just so you had all the guest characters. We do know that Project Soul is a small team. It's a small handpicked team. We have to remember this. It's not like a huge developer like the Tekken team, and oftentimes when they're behind on stuff, the Tekken team will actually come over and send some members to help Project Soul, and vice versa, because they're in the same umbrella as Bandai Namco. They're actually in the same studios. So they oftentimes help each other finish projects. So I'm not even sure if they're still helping them with Tekken 8. as opposed to just focusing solely on Soulcalibur 7. I still believe that Soulcalibur 7 is going to be end of 2023 or beginning 2024. I'm actually leaning more towards 2024 just because of the development cycle and how much time they need to make the game, because they don't have like the reason that like a lot of games come out, and this is a little tangent we need to get off from real quick, like Mortal Kombat used to come out like every 2 years. It hasn't come out for a while now. It's going to be like 5 years since the last announcement of like a Mortal Kombat game, but every single 2 years they would come out with a different game, whether it be from NetherRealm Studios, whether it be Mortal Kombat, whether it be Injustice, yada yada. That's only because their team is so large that they can actually focus on splitting the team to focus on certain aspects of the game. Like they'll go hard on for making sure for crunch that like everything gets done on time, but then at that point after the game is like done and finalized, they can move the team over to other things while like a select team works on that version of the game because they can split the two. Project Soul doesn't have that many people, so they're not going to be doing that. I want to see classic costumes come back. I want to see like a lot of the old bonus characters come back and stuff like that. A lot of these things are probably not going to happen, but just temper your expectations, because this game is going to be as fun as we get it. But a big problem that we had with Soulcalibur 6 is that since it was the revitalization of the entire series and franchise, and we were so distasted in our mouths from 5, most of us, that like when we went into 6, we had these expectations that were like through the roof. And a lot of people didn't like what they got at the end of the day, and it's not really to the fault of Project Soul trying to make the best game with the budget that they were allotted. It's because we literally like expected this game that didn't exist and wasn't promised to us and like was never alive in the first place. And instead of enjoying what we got, we just like nitpicked the crap out of the game until a lot of people turned themselves away from Soulcalibur 6 and called it a bad game, which it's definitely not by any stretch a bad game. That's just what I'm trying to avoid here. Soulcalibur 7 can be like the catalyst that keeps Soulcalibur around as a franchise, but there's a few things, like 3 things that I think we need to keep in mind. I'm going to name them right now. So the first thing that we need to remember is budget, because they never get as big of a budget as Tekken. They don't sell as much as Tekken. Tekken sells upwards of 8 million copies. Soulcalibur usually does around 2. So we got to remember that they're going to look for a return on investment with the investors and how much money they're actually putting into the budget. So the budget for the game is going to include that and marketing, which they're probably not going to market as much. Soulcalibur 6 had like a trailer, and then it came out like pretty much close to that point after. It was like upwards of a year or something like that, but still it came out like at the next interval. The second thing that we have to remember is that they need new lead producers because Motohiro Okubo left, so like they have to get another producer, which is easy to find within Tekken. The Tekken team or Bandai Namco's umbrella. I'm sure somebody will step up right away. Where, as I understand, getting the same director and a lot of the same core team from Project Soul is staying on for this game. So I think that like we just need a new lead producer. And the third thing that I want to remember is that like they need to focus on gameplay as well. I know a lot of us, myself included, are like, we want single player, and like we want more creative character stuff. We want more like story mode stuff. We want like, Chronicles of the Sword back. We want Towers back. We want Endless Battles back. We want Weapon Master mode back. Like all this kind of stuff that we want. But we're forgetting about the main core audience besides us that is actually like driving the marketing for this game, and that is the esports crowd. And as much as I hate saying that, I mean, like, they're the ones that drive like the production of the game for getting new eyes, getting new attention, stuff like that, and guest characters are the 2 things that actually drive the sales. So if we're not focusing on things like the balancing of the game, at least for online play, and like keeping creative characters out of online ranked and having their own online mode, balancing characters that were broken, such as Astaroth or Nightmare, for example. I know in high-level gameplay it's easy to counter some of these things, but I'm just saying, like, they're going to want balance in the game or they're going to completely ignore those characters. Okay, so, like, the balance packs and the fixes, like, those tournament players also work as, like, QA, right? So, like, if something doesn't work with a character that's supposed to work, they're going to bring that up, and Project Soul is going to patch that. Without getting... Because, like, they're not going to listen to, like, casuals, honestly, because they don't have the time. But, like, when it comes to the online players that support the game, they're the ones that are going to drive the marketing. They're the ones that are going to drive the futurist eyes on the projects, because those of us who love Soulcalibur are already going to buy it, but that's only, what, 2 million of us, so we need more people. needs to focus on gameplay, needs to focus on balance, needs to focus on bugs and glitches, and then it also needs to focus on single player. So there's a lot of stuff that they need to get right with this game, starting from the ground up with a new engine, with a budget that's going to investors expect that they're going to get back 2 million in sales. Like, we may destroy that and get 8 million in sales like Tekken, but they're going to expect 2 million because that's what they go by. They go by the past, and they use that to predict the future, and that's how much money they're willing to invest in the project, because that's how much they know for a fact that they're going to get a return on. It's not like they're just going to have a pitch meeting and then like throw money at them and hope that they get it back. Like, they're very stingy with their money. They only use their money as an investment piece to get money back. They don't care about the project. Investors literally just want their money back and more. So with all of these things being around, I want to know from you guys, what are some things that you're super excited about, but what you're holding off on and holding back on, just so you don't feel disappointed. Any and all thoughts are always welcome in the comment section down below. I will be having a poll in the community tab talking about this with the top 3 features that you think they should focus on. And any and all thoughts are always welcome. Like I always say, guys, you can also join the talk on Discord. And that's going to be the video today. And thank you for joining me. And as I always say, guys, I love it. Thank you.
And thank you.